Anand Sagopai. I scored 99.59 percentile.
Hello, I'm Kushal Aradhya. I got 99.17 percentile.
Yashasvi, I've scored 99.44 percentile.
Hi, I'm Siddharth. I've achieved 99.79 percentile.
I'm Narendran and I've scored 99.79 percentile.
Hello. Very good morning. My name is Dr. Balsubramanya Hegde and I am from Deeksha Main campus, and I am very happy and proud to say that 5 of my children have scored more than 99 percentile in the JEE Main examination conducted recently. So they are sitting here, and heartiest congratulations, my dear children.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So you guys have set a really good benchmark as far as your academic aspirations are concerned. So this benchmark, I'm sure, will help you achieve furthermore in the JEE advanced examination. So it's very important that we understand what worked for you, what went right, what kind of preparations happened, how did Deeksha support in this journey, how did your teachers help you in this journey, how did your peer groups help you in this journey. So all these things will help you consolidate your preparation for the JEE advanced examination. So first of all, Anant.
Hello, sir. I'm Anand Ragopai. I scored 99.59 percentile in JEE Main session 1.
Very good.
And what helped me was time management, completing the syllabus, and doing a lot of mock tests as well. Really helped.
Okay, so Anant is saying time management and lots of mock tests. Okay.
Hello, I'm Kushal Aradhya. I got 99.17 percentile in JEE Main session 1. What helped me was thorough revision of class notes and formula sheets. So because of that, I was comfortable with chemistry, and I completed the chemistry paper in within 20 minutes on the exam day.
So Kushal is saying that he was able to complete chemistry very quickly, and chemistry worked in his favor, and he was logically using the remaining time 2.5 hours for completion of physics and mathematics. A very good strategy. So his strength in one subject was used to balance or say equalize the performance in the other 2 subjects. That's really wonderful. So I'll come back to that because it's really interesting to know that when you are allocated 1 hour for completing the chemistry paper and you are completing that particular paper in half an hour, so it would have certainly taken extraordinary efforts to master that subject. So I'll certainly come back to that point. What helped you master that subject? What kind of preparations went into chemistry? So we are eager to hear it from you, Kushal. But before that, Siddharth.
Hi, I'm Siddharth. I've achieved 99.79 percentile in the JEE Main session 1. And I think the most important part of my journey was the last 2 to 3 months. That's when we had a revision program revising all the PU1 and PU2 concepts. And afterwards, we had lots of mock tests. In January, we had like 2 mock tests per day. And during that time, I was able to come up with an optimal strategy for attempting the exam. And that's what improved my scores the most.
So what Siddharth is saying is that he wrote lots of papers. And he also said a very crucial thing, strategizing. So strategizing towards the end of this particular journey. That's really interesting. What do you mean by strategizing, Siddharth? I want to know, because you have scored the highest from this particular group.
By strategy, I mean like the order in which I attempted the paper mostly. What I did was, like, math requires a lot of time in JEE Mains because it's very lengthy. So I would attempt physics and chemistry like about half an hour to 45 minutes per subject, and then remaining 1.5 to 2 hours was full math.
So what Siddharth is trying to tell is that his time management, understanding what worked for him in physics, what chapters he was good at, what chapters he was not good at, and thereby planning the mock tests in a proper way, such that he was able to answer whatever he knew, and he was able to spend a little more time on whatever he wanted to improvise.
I'm Yashasvi. I've scored 99.44 percentile in JEE Main session 1. What helped me do this were the weekly tests we had like right from the first year. That helped me set like weekly targets, which I had to achieve at any cost before the test. And that way I could cover all the content and topics, not leaving any backlogs.
Wonderful. So Yashasvi is telling that she had eyed this 99 percentile right from day number 1 at Deeksha. Yeah?
Not really, but I just try to give my 100%, 100% in anything I'm doing. That's what helps.
Wonderful to hear. So Yashasvi is telling that right from day number 1, she had taken all the weekly tests very seriously.
Yes.
And you had also set target for each test. Narendran?
I'm Narendran and I've scored 99.79 percentile in JEE Main session 1. So what worked for me was systematic study for the last 1.5 years. Made sure I don't have any backlogs towards the end of it. And also in the last 15 days or so, we wrote 2 tests per day. So I treated those mock tests like the actual mains exam, and that helped sort of strategize how I would spend my time, because I was stronger in physics and chemistry. So, and in the actual mains exam, I could finish both of the subjects in 80 minutes and spend the rest 100 for maths, because math generally requires a lot of time. And on the same note, I also try to keep my preparation dilute, because I didn't want to stress out.
So Narendran is telling that he identified his strengths right from day number 1. So work hard, play hard. In this journey of preparation, I'm sure you would have mastered physics, you would have mastered chemistry, you would have mastered mathematics. So each probably has mastered 1 or 2 or say all the 3 subjects. And it's very important to know what kind of preparations went in, what kind of overall understanding of the subject happened. So I'll begin with Anant. So Anant, how did you master physics?
Well, for physics, mostly I just used H.C. Verma. Like all of the concepts, I would first read from H.C. Verma, and then if I solved the whole of H.C. Verma, I would feel very confident. For example, if I take rotational motion, I had not solved it in first year, but in first year I had solved fluid mechanics. So when revision time came up, I was able to solve fluid mechanics, but rotational motion lagged behind. So H.C. Verma is very useful. It explains very nicely as well. Next thing is I didn't check any other book. My physics was mainly H.C. Verma and then the Deeksha manuals. What I would do was, after the class, usually I would schedule my week as chemistry or physics. On physics days, I would solve the physics Deeksha manuals, especially stage 2. Stage 2 questions were very good, very helpful, and that's it. Because of H.C. Verma, my concepts are straight. Because of Deeksha manuals, I get to solve a lot of questions. So their physics preparation is more or less done.
Wonderful. So H.C. Verma, especially those objective 1 and objective 2 questions would have helped everybody, right? So Kushal, what kind of preparations went in for physics, mastering physics?
Yeah, as Anand told, even I used to solve H.C. Verma, and after solving objective 1 and objective 2, I used to solve Cengage. So in Cengage, it's like if we solve all the questions, we'll come across all types of problems. So we won't have to go to another book or anything. So that was mainly how I solved questions. And I used to wake up early during the revision program and just go through the formula sheets, and so that I can remember them. So yeah, in the morning I used to just wake up and just go through the formula sheets. And
so you used to write the formula every day, or you used to read, or you used to regenerate the formula every time you went through the chapter?
Well, actually, in first year itself, our teacher had given a formula sheet for first year and second year physics combined. So we just had the printout of that, and we used to look at it. I used to look at it every day and just memorize those things, so that at the exam, I just don't forget the formulas, because sometimes I just know the method, and if I don't remember the formula, it will take a long time to derive the formula. So the most important thing for me in physics is you should know the formulas, so that you can attempt most of the questions.
So numerical problems become easy. You don't have to reinvent the wheel at that point of time, because you already have the list of formula and you just keep revising the same thing again and again. You remember it a lot. So you wrote down the formula every day, or you were just reading the formula?
I had a notebook also in which I used to note down the important formulas, but since I had that printout, I used to just look at it every day in the morning. So it was not necessary that I had to write it down again.
So Siddharth, what kind of preparations happened in physics so that you have got overall percentage more than 99?
So I think me and Kushal have like opposite strategies. I didn't memorize any formulas most of the time. I mostly focused on understanding the concepts. So I focus properly in class and then read NCERT mainly, and then just test out different types of problems. After that, like I'll make sure my concepts were clear. For example, if I take kinematics,
So just to pause you here, you were telling that you made sure that your concepts are clear. So how did you make sure that your concepts are clear? What kind of testing or assessment happened there?
basically what I did was the Deeksha manual had lots of different types of questions. So I just try questions from different types, and then if I was able to solve them, I'd consider myself to be clear with that concept. And the other thing was, I think this is something that helps in all subjects. Like explaining it to someone else, it helps you understand how clear you are about the concept. Like once in a while, someone will come and ask a doubt, and if I wasn't able to explain, I'd know that I'm not clear on this, so I'd read it again. And what I did was formulae. Mostly, I derived them during the exam. Like for kinematics, mainly, I just remember the three basics: formula of motion, and then all the range, time of flight, everything I derived during the exam. Basically, every weekly exam, whenever we had kinematics, and over time, the formula automatically ingrained in my brain. The last few days before JEE, I went and memorized all formulae because JEE Mains is mostly about speed. But before that, I just wanted to make sure my concepts were clear.
So to make sure that your concepts were clear, you were referring your basic textbooks. Apart from your basic textbooks and Deeksha manual, were you spending time on any other material or any other material which really helped you?
I mostly spent time on Deeksha manual. I sometimes, like H.C. Verma had explained the derivations and concepts very clearly. I'd look at that sometimes, and then Cengage a little bit, but not a lot. Mostly it was just Deeksha manual.
Okay, that's nice to hear. So Yashasvi, so you have mastered physics. And to master physics, what kind of preparation happened? What kind of books you were referring to? And how much time were you spending on physics preparation? Can you give some insight into that?
I wasn't strong in physics in the first year, so I started giving it more importance coming to the second year, because that's when I realized all subjects have equal importance. And so I paid more attention in classes, tried to clarify all my doubts before the end of the day itself, so that doubts don't get piled up and then you don't forget what they are. And then solving Deeksha manual questions, they were really helpful because they covered all kind of concepts. And then doing H.C. Verma also helped me. This is the only thing I did for physics.
So Deeksha manual and H.C. Verma. So on an average, you would have solved, say, 200 to 250 problems per chapter?
Yes, sir, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so you covered all types of problems, like, stage 1 problems, stage 2 problems, and the difficult problems from your end of chapter questions, etc.
Yes, sir. I went like level by level, stage 1 and then stage 2. I covered all the levels, including stage 1, because I believe strengthening your concepts from the base is much important. And so stage 1 and then stage 2. Then I went to stage 3 as well.
So this preparation made sure that your weekly targets or say monthly targets were met in the test that was conducted at Deeksha. Okay. And coming back to the two books that you were referring to, Deeksha manual and to some extent H.C. Verma also. So in H.C. Verma, did you find that the problems are as per the expectations from JEE Main examination, or they were higher, or you felt little inadequate, or say you felt that these problems are more than what is required for JEE Main examination?
Few questions I got like stuck mainly because of my poor concept in them, and so I went to the teachers. I got my doubts clarified, and then few questions were easier. So coming to the end, when I didn't have time, I started skipping the easier questions in H.C. Verma and focused only on the tougher ones. And Deeksha manual, I've solved everything, even if it's easy or tough.
So I usually keep my students one particular thing. At the end, what happens is you are preparing for a particular examination from a new book. For example, towards the end, you got a new book and you found that the book is good and you want to practice, but you got say 250 problems, and your target is to complete all those problems from that particular chapter within, say, 1 or 2 days. So what I generally suggest is something like this. If you look at the questions gradation, first couple of questions are easy. I can say first 1/3 of the questions are easy, next 1/3 of the questions are moderate, and usually the last 1/3 of the questions are difficult. So my strategy and my approach has been like this. You attend 1/3 of the first 1/3 and 2/3 of the next 1/3 and last 1/3 completely, which means that you are covering all the varieties. Easier questions are attempted to. You are also looking at the moderate questions and you are looking at the difficult questions also. But what is really required for that particular examination is also met. So in that background, Narendran, what kind of preparation happened in physics which helped you?
So physics is a subject where not much of memorization needs to take place. It's more about understanding. It's understanding oriented. So there's logic for everything in it. That's why I found it quite easy and straightforward. And what I would do was, yes, every day when the teachers would take class, I would take the notes, and then after going back home, go through them, solve questions. Deeksha manuals were really helpful because they had a good amount of conceptual questions which covered all aspects of a particular topic. So in that way, I feel the Deeksha manuals were really helpful. And after the completion of the Deeksha manuals, I would then move on and have a look at the previous year questions on that particular topic, which would give me an idea of what kind of questions, what difficulty level of the topic will be coming in the exam. So that's how I went about it.
So Narendran is adding one more thing. He said that Deeksha manuals, H.C. Verma, and probably one more textbook, and then previous year question papers. So to gauge his understanding and examination requirements. So this works finally probably for the betterment of school. So now physics is not the only thing. Physics requires understanding of the subject, and as probably most of you have understood and explained, it requires understanding and to some extent knowledge of formula as well. But one another subject which can be little boring here and there, or say little dry here and there, is chemistry. So let us understand what kind of preparation happened. How did you attack chemistry, keeping that boredom part aside, because it's equally important from the JEE Main examination as well. So Anant, how did you manage chemistry? How many hours did you put in for chemistry? What kind of reference materials you used? What kind of frequency happened for the doubt clarification? So throw some light on that.
So mainly for chemistry, it's organic, inorganic and physical. So if I classify it like this, for organic chemistry, I didn't do much practice because RP sir's notes were enough. And then there was also, I would also solve PYQs. With PYQs, you have almost done it. There are almost 300 questions. So if you solve most of the PYQs, you know most of the concepts. And then I didn't refer any other reference books other than Deeksha manual. I would just solve the Deeksha manual. It has all types of questions and that's done. For inorganic, it is slightly tough. You have to by heart. I had to read NCERT many times. D and F block took a lot of reading, but it is by heartable. It is doable. PYQs also help, especially JEE Mains and advanced, because advanced PYQs, in one question you get a lot of concepts, so it's much easier. Even for organic chemistry, in one question there will be like synthesis from all the chapters. So in one question you have checked if you know all the chapters thoroughly. And then for physical, it's again like physics only. You have to just practice questions, more number of questions, especially for electrochemistry as well. The concepts are simple in physical chemistry.
It's an extension of physics most of the times.
The questions are slightly tough, but most usually in this JEE session, it was all numericals, and the numericals were easy, so it was doable. But in case it is difficult, a lot of practice is needed for physical chemistry also. In terms of reference books, it was just Deeksha manual, not that much, along with PYQs. For chemistry, I didn't take any other reference book.
Okay, so Anant is saying that notes, class notes help, and then basics of NCERT book and PYQs help. But he was mentioning that inorganic chemistry, harder part required lot of efforts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Kushal, chemistry being your favorite subject and you managed to crack it in half an hour. So you must have devised some special method to get control on that one, right? So you'd have spent more time, you'd have probably referred lots of materials, or you'd have spent say 20 hours on one particular topic. So what kind of preparations happened on that?
Well, in organic chemistry, during our classes itself, sir used to give us lots of questions. So they were only like kind of games for us. So it was fun, and it in a way increased our desire to study the subject. So yeah, in organic chemistry, it was just like games, but inorganic chemistry requires a lot of study because they can ask from any corner of the NCERT textbook. So whenever I used to get bored of solving questions, I used to just open NCERT and then just read something in the inorganic chemistry. And yeah, sometimes I used to use one of my friends' reference books, JD Lee, for inorganic chemistry. And yeah, and then physical chemistry, there's not much of concepts, so you just have to work out the problems. So I used to use N. Avasti book. So it had a lot of questions. So just solving more questions of physical chemistry was sufficient for me. So yeah, that was how I prepared for chemistry.
Okay, so you are trying to say that classroom notes for organic chemistry were sufficient, and for inorganic chemistry you had to practice from NCERT book and PYQs, and probably you would have done some little writing and preparing the chart, preparing the table, etc. I'm sure.
Yes, well, during revision program, me and Anand used to just read NCERT and make notes from random corners, and then just show it to each other and see like say like see, this is something I found in NCERT, did you know this, or something like that. So yeah, that helped us a lot.
So mutual discussions, I think that's what Siddharth was telling earlier. So he was telling that discussions help. So what kind of discussions and what kind of books, what kind of study methods helped you, Siddharth, as far as chemistry is concerned?
Sir, chemistry is basically all NCERT for inorganic and physical, at least. For organic, I read NCERT, but I mostly focused on RP search notes, and that basically covered all of organic. For inorganic, it's just memorization. So in the last few months, basically, I made a book writing all the exceptions, all the properties, and basically looked at it every single time whenever I was free, so that I could memorize them. And in physical, actually, I struggled a bit initially because I didn't really understand what was going on. And then, so I went and read NCERT a few times, and then that cleared all the concepts, like why you're doing what you're doing. And so then it was easier for me to like just read the question and understand what I'm supposed to find.
So, did you spend more time on chemistry? You were telling that it was a little hard and it required efforts. Did you spend more time on chemistry, Siddharth?
During the last few months, I mostly focused on inorganic because that was where I was not clear at all. Organic, I'd already been doing class. RP sir would give questions, like, and then he let us solve it on our own, and that basically just all my organic was done there. Only for inorganic, last few months was all memorization for inorganic. And then I don't think I used any reference books. I just used NCERT and then the Deeksha Main.
NCERT and classroom notes were sufficient for you. Okay, good. Yashasvi, what kind of preparations help as far as chemistry is concerned? How much effort? What kind of books? You also went to NCERT books for inorganic chemistry, or organic chemistry was your favorite, or physical chemistry you had the control. So throw some light on that.
Organic chemistry was my favorite. I really liked it, and class notes were really sufficient.
I want to interrupt here. Why was organic chemistry interesting you?
The type of questions which were there and the kind of games which RP sir gives,
Okay.
they made it more interesting. And
So he gamified your learning process.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
And coming to inorganic, it is full of memorizing, and I'm really bad at it. So coming to the last few days, I started reading NCRT each and every day. And for physical, I did Deeksha manual and NCRT. For chemistry, I think NCRT and Deeksha manual was sufficient for me, and I could do it.
So on an average, how much time were you spending on chemistry on normal day? Maybe 3 hours, 2 hours, 5 hours. What was your time distribution?
I used to study like for 3 to 3.5 hours every day, like after college, and I gave equal time for all the subjects. Chemistry also took like 1 hour every day.
1 hour every day. So Narendran, you were telling that you are having good control in physics and chemistry. So probably they required less efforts according to my understanding. So what strategy, what kind of approach help you get good control in chemistry?
So an interesting thing about chemistry is that when I was in first PU, I used to hate chemistry.
That is interesting.
No, like it was like too memorizing oriented, and I hated doing that.
Why was it? Because it was less of organic chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. So in first PU, it was more of all the dry chapters were there, block elements, all such topics. So I didn't find any interest in all of those things. But when I came to second PU, and then RP sir, the character he made me fall in love with chemistry again, especially organic chemistry, with the games he used to give and all such things. So, and an important thing in chemistry is, again, it'd be boring to say it again, but NCRT is really important. That's what helped me really understand the reason behind what's happening and what we are doing. And yeah, I didn't follow any other reference books. I just stuck to NCRT and obviously previous year questions as well, to give an idea of what questions will come. And as far as physical chemistry goes, it was more of practice, similar to physics. And I made sure I practiced a good amount of questions covering all the aspects of any topic. Inorganic, yes, that's the tricky. I mean, you have to memorize a lot of stuff in that. But thankfully for us, a lot of block elements were removed. We had very less to memorize.
So rationalize.
Yeah, so it's doable. It's not tough.
So you were writing and practicing that particular inorganic chemistry, or you were having some chart, table, or you were reading only from NCRT?
I was just reading NCRT, so reading it again and again, because we can't understand it in one go itself. So I read it again and again, and then at a point when I picked it up, because 2 years of rigorous practice and such things definitely come.
So basically, like the more tests I wrote, I think it got easier to memorize. Like whenever I made a mistake in a question, after the test I'd go look at the question and why I got it wrong, and then I just doing that over time. I think I just ended up memorizing a lot of things, especially organic.
So one understanding I am getting from your interaction is that inorganic chemistry is a little boring, but you can get over that.
With constant practice from mock tests, weekly mock tests. For example, if we had, let's say, D and F block elements, we would practice that same chapter for 1 month in 12th PU. So in 1 month, we obviously learn it quite well. And again, if you keep practicing NCRT, you will even find the small facts which are there to remember.
So it's NCRT plays an important role. Maybe they pick a line from NCRT book, convert it into question. We have not paid lot of attention for that particular line during the reading of that NCRT book. But fortunately or unfortunately, that question or that line pops up as a question, and that happens by repetitive reading of the NCRT books, I'm sure.
Especially this year, there's lots of inorganic, and they asked very obscure equations and reactions in NCRT, and then it was like hard to memorize those. Like it just randomly pops up in the exam, and then you're like, I know this, I've read this, but I can't remember it right now, and it's very annoying.
I know, I don't know. And Anant, I'm coming back to you. You're telling that physics and chemistry and the third subject, mathematics, all the three you had control. So I want to know, what kind of control did you have in mathematics? Was it right from PU1, or was it that you started picking up in the second year by extra efforts? What kind of preparations happened in mathematics, and how much time did you put in, and what kind of books did you recommend or say read?
For maths especially, lot of practice is still required for me. I'm still not that well versed in it. Even in first PU, there was not much focus in maths for me. I had just learned sufficient, which was not good. I had to practice more. I realized in my mains, when I saw the questions that took long time to solve, I should have had the speed to do it. That comes with practice. So I had to practice in first PU only and continue that practice discipline in second PU. And maths, there is nothing much. You have to continually practice. Be it Deeksha manual, PYQs of JEE Mains, advanced, anywhere, any question you have to solve many questions. That is all there is in maths.
So in mathematics, was there anything like, this section I am good at, this section required more efforts, this section I had very good control over, maybe calculus, maybe coordinate geometry, or maybe trig, whatever. So you had anything of that kind?
For me personally, I was well versed in calculus. Calculus I was able to do more or less, but coordinate geometry was the problem. Mostly because that has more formulae, which will make the calculation faster. That's all it is. You can calculate, but coordinate geometry without formulae, it's very difficult to do it under the time constraint. And coordinate geometry also requires slight imagination, slight graphing. You have to draw the graph, especially for circles and ellipses, to know which point is where in the graph and what equation you can derive from that. Coordinate geometry requires, according to me, most of the practice. Calculus didn't require that much practice for me. Trigonometry is dependent on questions. Some questions are easy, some questions are difficult. Knowing the basic formula is sufficient for trigonometry. And that's it. Those are the three main branches of maths.
Okay. So Narendran, I'll come back to you. You were telling that maths required a little more efforts, right? So if you look at, again, coordinate geometry versus trigonometry versus calculus versus say regular say combinatorics, what are your ideas? So how much time did you put in for each of these chapters so that finally you were able to manage JEE Main examination very well as well?
Sir, the thing is, I liked coordinate geometry and even calculus. I was able to do these two topics quite easily. The problem for me was permutation and the combinations. I still don't get why it's happening, what is happening there. And yeah, I still am not 100% confident. There's still much to practice. And that's the thing with maths. You just can't master it in a limited amount of time. You just need to keep practicing it. And our teachers actually were quite helpful. They used to give different types of problems and tougher problems as a challenge. I'll challenge you to solve this question and show it to me. Something like that. These small things motivate us. And yes, sir, that's
Okay. So Yashasvi, I'll ask you a question. So probably you can answer in one line. On an average, how many questions did you solve in mathematics per chapter?
Maybe 200 to 250.
200 to 250. And 200 to 250 were all at JEE Mains level.
Some were advanced level as well, but actually maths coming to JEE Mains level itself is a little tough compared to the other two subjects. It requires more practice and time constraint being one important thing.
Was it, okay, I'm interrupting. So is it that maths is lengthy or maths is difficult or maths is boring or maths is interesting or all of them?
I feel maths is interesting, and rather than being difficult, it's more lengthy is what I feel. You give me like 3 hours and just maths, maybe I'll be able to do it, but that's not possible in JEE Mains.
Somebody from your section has done that.
So yeah, maths is not that difficult. We just need practice. I find calculus really interesting, but coming to conic sections, it's really boring for me. So I stayed back with the teachers and then got more grip onto it.
Basically, maths is requiring lot of efforts, right? So Kushal, what was your strategy to master mathematics?
Sir, well, actually, I was not that great at maths. After revision program started, I solved more questions of maths, but I was more comfortable with arithmetic type like permutations, probability, because they were more fun to do, and they involved real life things.
So you were able to comprehend.
Yeah, if it was like something which I can imagine in real life, I was able to solve that question more easily. Relations and functions or those type of things. So I solved more questions of those chapters. So I feel I should have solved more questions of other branches also. So in the second attempt, I'll concentrate on.
Were there any specific books that you use which help your concentration and control in mathematics?
I used to solve Deeksha manual and Cengage. Then I used to solve the previous year questions. So previous year questions are really helpful because once you solve the previous year questions, you understand that JEE Main's maths is not that easy. It's actually lengthy and it will take more time. So the main thing about maths is you have to devote more time for maths. Like we can solve a lot of questions in chemistry and physics. For average, like I can solve around 30 questions in 30 minutes or in chemistry, whereas I can solve around 10 questions only in maths. So when we are studying in college, like before the revision, that time I used to feel like, oh, it takes a lot of time. Let me just do chemistry or physics.
So you're getting frustrated
Yes.
at your speed.
Yes, sir. But we should not do that. All three subjects are equally important, and maths is actually more important because when once your percentile is equal or you get the same marks, they consider your maths marks itself. So
Okay.
it is actually important to devote more time for maths.
And also good control in mathematics helps you good control in physics as well, naturally. Yeah? So Siddharth, what is your take on this? So you are still having this similar opinion as that of Kushal, or you beg to differ now?
So basically, what Anand said, basically, maths requires lots of practice. Like if you attempt as many questions as you can, like of different types, then when a new question comes up, you probably have attempted a similar question earlier and you know how to solve it. Like most of the time, like the more different types of questions you attempt, like the more methods of solving questions you get. And then like you have basically some integral questions, for example, they seem extremely complicated, but like one particular substitution and it becomes super easy. And to know how to substitute that thing, you need to have lots of practice. The other thing about math is, especially like the 3D geometry, I was good at visualizing stuff, so it was fine. Like I think visualization helps a lot, even in physics, like physics and math, like developing an intuition for how things work. That helps a lot.
So it relates to us easily. So you don't have to. It's not it's not that there is something abstractness there. So it's easily appealing. You mean to say?
So the other thing I did was conic sections. There's just too many formulae in conic sections. For us, they removed like tangents, so it was easier. But I just decided in conic sections I would not memorize any formulae. I just derived the formulae during the exam. But luckily,
did it work for you?
Luckily, I didn't have to do much.
Okay.
I had very few conic section questions. But then during the mock test, it helped. It worked because you just need to understand what a tangent is, what normals are, and then you can derive it easily. Because at the end of during the last few months, you don't have much time to practice. So the subjects you are already good at, the topics you're already good at, you need to focus more on that. And the other stuff, I think there are a few concepts that you can cover that will help you understand a majority of the topic. Like I said, like if you just understand how to derive those equations, you can solve it. It might take longer, but it's better than not knowing how to solve it at all.
The downside of remembering something is that you forget one step, the entire sequence goes for a toss. For example, maybe an equation. You're trying to remember an equation. There's something like as simple as v square is equal to u square plus 2s, or say minus 2s. So whether it is plus or minus, if you forget at that point of time, your understanding goes for a toss and your remembering also goes for a toss. Right? So one thing that I observe is that your Deeksha manuals have got a control right, as far as these things are concerned, and you have spent little time on outside books as well, and on an average per subject, per chapter, you would have spent at least 250 questions to get the control over, and a variety of questions as well. If you look at 2022 versus 2024, 2022 is when you started this journey, right? So it's almost 20 months. You started in the month of May, June, post-COVID, and almost 20 months are over. So if you look at this journey, you can divide it into 3 phases. One is PU1, kind of initial phase, PU1 phase, foundation phase, you can call. Second year journey lasted up to September in the phase 2, during which the learning of the core subjects happened, and then the revision phase. So these are the 3 phases. So over these 20 months, you started preparing for your JEE Main examination, and as Yashasvi was mentioning, she started preparing for the JEE Advanced examination also simultaneously, and you are preparing for the board examinations also. So over this period of time, you would have inculcated new habits, learned something, maybe from your peer group, maybe from the system, or on your own you started learning many things. So these things have helped you get a very good score like 99 percentile now. So what are those things, maybe 2 or 3 things which helped you get these good things, and what are these things which changed you over these 20 months journey? So if you look back these 20 months journey, what are all the things that you learned which you inculcated? So Siddharth, what did you do in these 20 months?
Sir, to be honest, first PU I didn't really concentrate much as in for preparation for JEE mains or advanced. So first PU was mostly just the weekly test. Those were fine, but like as an overall like end goal of JEE mains, I didn't really concentrate much. It was only after second PU started, that's when, because there's less time now, I can't just be relaxed anymore. That's when I started to properly concentrate on JEE mains. And that's also when we started having the advanced tests, weekly tests. And so I think the one important thing was like going back after each weekly test and making sure, checking what you got wrong, what you got right, and then just revising what you don't know. That was one thing that helped me a lot.
So Yashasvi, you were mentioning that you started the JEE Advanced exam preps along with the JEE Mains also. So was it that you started JEE Advanced from day number 1, or over these 20 months your priorities have changed, or you picked up something new, and is there any modification in the study pattern which helped you?
First year, as he said, even I wasn't that concentrated in mains or advanced. It was just about weekly tests. Coming to second year, because we had advanced test as well, I started preparing for advanced along with mains. It's like 1 week we have mains test. So that time I focus more on mains questions, and then the next week it is advanced questions and concepts. Advanced is more like a little deeper than mains, so I just try to build up on those concepts for the next week before the advanced test. That way I got a little grip on advanced tests as well.
Okay, so you mean to say that your preparation started really seriously in the second year? You were balancing the JEE Main preparation and JEE Advanced preparation simultaneously. Yes. Was that? Okay. So was there anything special for JEE Advanced that you were doing?
For maths, I started doing Cengage mainly for advanced. There's nothing else special.
So you started studying more, you started studying more effectively. That worked.
Yes.
So Kushal, what kind of preparations were you doing in the first year, and were you doing in the phase 2 of the second year and phase 3 of the second year? So what kind of transition you see in yourself over this 20 months journey?
Yeah, like Siddharth and Yashasvi told, even I was not that seriously preparing for JEE mains. I was just writing weekly tests, and it was going good. So I was not that, I didn't know how the actual JEE mains was going to be. But after we came into second year, we realized how competitive the exam is and how much effort it requires. So we started preparing more for that. And since we started preparing for advanced, we had to know the concepts clearly, not just the formulas. Like in advanced, you can't just know the formula of a physics. For example, if there's a radioactivity decay question, you can't just know the formula. And for advanced, you have to derive how the first order reaction takes place. So you have to know the concept clearly.
So you should be very thorough in concepts, and a proper and a clear understanding of the subject helps you build the math part of it.
Yeah. So for JEE Advanced, the main thing is you have to know the concepts clearly and you have to be properly well versed in that. So that was how the first part of second year went. And after the learning process was done and we had revision, since that time also we were preparing for advanced itself. So that it would make us easier for the mains. So since we were writing advanced tests during revision program also, mains actually felt easier. So yeah, that was how we prepared during the 20 months.
So you are trying to say that some kind of preparation at a higher level has helped you get mastery over the JEE Main examination. So then coming to you, if you look at this 20 months journey, I'll put a specific question to you.
Yes.
Is there any change in the number of questions per hour in a specific subject that you see?
Well, in first year, the number of questions were less only. What I would do was, I would solve the manual as much as I could in limited time. I would not solve too much. But in the second year, especially second year phase 3, I would try to attempt as many questions as possible throughout the day. Just try to attempt questions because it's the last phase. By now, I would have at least known every concept more or less. So I would just solve questions which I didn't know. I would read it again, but I would just solve questions. I would sometimes reach maybe 400 questions per day.
Oh, that's really impressive.
But it was a gradual increase. You can't directly go to 400 questions. You have to work towards it.
So initially, when you started this journey at the beginning of the first year, how many questions you think you are doing on an average on daily basis?
In first PU, actually, Shyam sir told us to answer some questions daily and write it in a book. So that I would do. I would answer. He would say answer some 10 questions. I would answer those 10 questions and then in the allotted time try to do the manual lecture questions of that day, and that would be my day in first PU. But now in the phase 3 I had to increase it. Even in phase 2 I had to slightly increase that number. It had to keep increasing.
So on an average you are hitting 400 questions every day. So given a chance.
Phase 3, yes.
Wow, that's really wonderful. So now Narendran, in these 20 months, as you were telling, your first year journey was little slow and second year you picked. So a specific question to you, apart from numbers, is there any specific method that you picked during the second year which helped you a lot?
One significant change was that, yes, in first year I used to not like chemistry much, but once I came to second PU, I realized the importance of chemistry because that's where the bulk of the scoring happens. So, and then from there on, I picked the interest in chemistry. I started practicing more questions, and of course, RP sir was also there. Played a good role. And physics and maths, I was even in first PU, I was not neglecting it. I was doing it in a systematic way. It's just that I increased the number of questions I did, or the time I spent per subject per chapter also, and especially during the last phase. December and January, that was when I started sitting for long durations of time, because till then I couldn't sit for even 2 hours at a stretch. But it was in January because at that time we used to write 2 papers every day. Last fortnight we wrote 30 papers or something like that. That really boosted confidence.
So you mean to say that you started spending more time per subject, per day over a period of time that helped you get more number of problems solved, right? Okay. So what I'm understanding from your interaction is that number one, second year played a vital role, and that too at the beginning, goal expectations, solving JEE advanced questions, and towards the fag end of the questions, you started increasing the number of questions as well. So is there anything apart from this that you would like to add?
So I think one thing that helped me a lot was me and Anand would sit together and he would randomly give me some integration on organic question when he was solving. And looking at him solving so many questions, even I got motivated to start solving. And that's why I think having friends who are also like interested in studying and study a lot, it motivates you to also do the same. And that's one thing that helped me a lot in the preparation for in second year.
So now Siddharth is telling that there is a companion for him to motivate, to challenge, and to make sure that the boat is afloat. So now, do you think that this group study, this peer study, will help you, or are there any chances of distraction?
So, there are distractions, 100%. But the one thing that AK sir used to say was, any topic you take, you first solve it on your own, understand it properly, and then you start the group study. Because if you have no idea about the topic and you always start a group study, maybe someone else knows it better and you end up just copying what they're doing. You don't really understand what you're doing. So that's what, like, you have to first build up a base for what you know, your own understanding, and then when you start group study, like, everyone has different ideas of how to solve a question, and so you can find interesting ways, very fun ways to solve questions which are faster, which are more helpful during the
So
exam.
mutually helping each other. So Anant knows how to solve a set of problems faster, and you know how to solve another set of problems faster. So it's mutually beneficial. Yeah. So Kushal, did it help you, or you tried, or you went alone? What kind of journey?
Yeah, actually, in the third phase during revision, me and Anand used to sit together and solve bunch of questions together. So sometimes he used to do it in a different way, and I used to do it in a different way, and we used to compare. And we used to have kind of a competition who is going to solve that question first. So it used to motivate us also. And sometimes it so happens like we get the answer, but it's not the right method. So if we speak with them and we get to know that it is not the right method, we won't do the same mistake in the final exam. So yeah, I think that peer group is really important, and you have to have good set of people around you who will help you and who will motivate you.
Okay. So Narendran, is there any specific subject in which you had the group discussions, or you did all alone, or what kind of methods did you adopt?
Most part of my journey was I was just doing it alone, because I'm such a person, like when I'm with other people, it's just too much distractions take place. So we talk about everything except studies. So all these things happen. So that's why I try to spend some time alone when I'm studying. But yeah, on rare occasions, I also used to spend time with our backbench gang also. Even we used to sit down, especially maths, because maths is a subject where different perspectives are possible. So that's one thing which I liked in group studies. Very few group studies which I had, I learned this, that there are multiple perspectives that get generated when you sit in a group and work on.
Especially in mathematics, you mean to say. So you borrow the ideas and you make sure that there is a shortcut available with somebody else, and they know the content in a better way, in a more practical way. They can solve the problems in a better way, and you will be able to borrow the ideas. So there's something known as synergy. You must be knowing that 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2, 1 plus 1 is 3, because your energy plus his energy always adds up to a higher order of energy. Yashasvi, did it help? Were there any peer group interactions happening from your side, or what kind of?
Most of the time I used to study alone itself, but in the study hours which we got here, we used to have like certain set of questions we should complete it before the day ends, and anywhere we get stuck, we used to like discuss with each other, and this way we used to get to know where we are doing, like where we are mistaken in some concepts as such. And as they said, we get to know some faster methods to do a certain question. And because in JEE time management is really important, each question can have like various kinds of approach, but the easiest and fastest approach must be selected. That will be helpful doing group studies itself.
One pitfall that I see in group studies is you get intimidated by the presence of another really, I should say, somebody who is doing really fast, somebody who has understood the concepts well. Did it happen anywhere, or say at any point of time, did you get intimidated by the presence of somebody else, Anand?
So it happens, especially for probability and permutation. I lack in that, and then Siddharth would solve it with some and some logic.
Okay. Did you get motivated or did you get intimidated at that point?
I mean, it was intimidation first. Then I would ask him how to do it, and then slowly I would learn.
So you converted that negative side to positive side. So you sat with him and then got it converted. Okay.
So I think it's more of an inspiration. Like when you see someone else solving it in like a very fast and nice looking method, I'd say. And so you want to develop such skills yourself. And so like in like maths, Anant and like Arya used to solve integrals very quickly and like fast. And so I get inspired basically to find methods to solve it like that.
That's interesting. So there is a possibility of getting intimidated, but you get challenged. You say, I also want to do that method. I also want to develop those skills, and I want to become faster and more controllable. That's really interesting. Now, this journey of 2 years, I'm sure, has been really stressful. How many of you felt stressed out? I'm sure. At times, you said that, okay, this is not my cup of tea. So from tomorrow, I'm not going to do JEE Mains. Nothing. IIT is not my cup of tea. NIT is not my cup of tea. So I'm happy with what I'm doing. Probably you had such days, bad days, or say stressful days. How were, or I'll put it this way, was it really stressful? Or if it was stressful, what kind of methods did you adopt to make it easy, make the journey easy, or your teachers helped or the system helped? So what kind of journey happened here? Anyone?
So what I used to do was, to keep it less stressful, I would go out and play a lot. Every day, at least once in 2 days, I used to go out and play. Only in the last month or so, it became only in the weekends when I could go out and play, because that was something which really took out the stress. And after coming back home and when I used to sit and solve questions, I found it easier and I could concentrate more, because I was sort of in a relaxed state of mind. And at the same time, yes, there are a few tests here and there where the marks drop suddenly, and
Correct.
I went through that sort of lean patch where I was struggling to cross 200. It was in around 190s range. So, but that's where the importance of teachers come into picture, because sort of I sat with them, I could assess where my weak areas are, and always I wouldn't call it failure, I would just call it learning. So that's how I looked at it.
Yeah, even it happens to everyone. Sometimes you just get less marks and you feel bad about it. So what I used to do was, I used to go and ask the teachers, like, why am I not able to get better marks? What am I lacking in? So they used to tell me what I can do better, or if I can solve some, if I can prepare in a better way, like solving some reference books so that I can cover all the concepts before going to the exam hall. And one of our teacher, he used to motivate us by saying that if there's a question given, so the hint is that it can be solved. So that is the hint. So
there is a solution for that.
Yeah, there is a solution for that. So we should not get demotivated. We have to give our best and just hope everything goes well.
Siddharth, did you feel stressed out?
Sir, I would not say stressed out, but
or say pressurized. Was there any pressure on you?
Mostly while studying inorganic, because I'm not really that good at memorizing stuff, and inorganic, like almost every exam I scored very low in inorganic, and I guess that was a bit pressurizing. But like these teachers are really supportive, and the friends, everyone, they support you, and then you get relaxed. Like if you're struggling with something, you can just take a break, listen to music or something, and later maybe you'll be able to solve it easier.
Okay. So Yashasvi, I'm asking you a specific question with respect to this aspect. Did you see anybody from your section, your class, your friends getting stressed out, getting pressurized? And did you see them getting transformed to a better state over a period of time? Did it happen over a period of time with respect to your friends?
Yes, sir. Like my friends, including me, sometimes we got stressed out, and that time we used to just motivate each other, telling there is a way. We still have time, and then we still can work upon things. Things can be fixed, and that way we motivated each other, and yeah.
Okay, good. So, Anand, I see you as a very calm and composed person, right? You are. And I'm sure you must be doing some kind of meditation, pranayama, or say some breathing exercises, which I don't know whether you are doing or not. And do you think that that will help?
Sir, I mean, all I did was, so no, I don't do meditation. Instead, in 11th first PO, what I would do was I would play for 2 hours in the beginning. Then I couldn't play because I had to study. And then my studies were like I would study, and then when I feel like I can't do any questions, like my brain shuts down, I would just go play something, do something else away from studies, and then when my mind is refreshed, I can continue.
Okay.
But breaks are important.
Breaks are important. So some kind of breaks are important, like you go out play, or you listen to music, or you say just close the book aside, go to your mom, ask for some food, and have something, and come back and start studying. Some kind of breaks will certainly get you back on the track, right? So that's really wonderful.
I think one more thing is lots of people, they sacrifice their sleep for studying, and I think that's like a big effect on the mental health, right? I right now, I in my 2 years I've never slept less than 8 hours, so I think that was one advantage I had.
That's really interesting. So having a proper sleep, make sure that next day is really active. We were talking about the 2 years journey earlier, 20 months period, right? And the phase 3 of the second year was primarily about the revision program. Now, if you come to your JEE Main score, you all scored more than 99 percentile, and I'm sure that you have practiced a lot. This practice involves three aspects. One is learning aspect, and the second is revision aspect. The third is mock tests, practice papers, etc. So I'm sure you would have written, say, some 30-40 mock papers during this last part of the journey. Maybe offline papers, maybe online papers, maybe some test series here, maybe some test series at home. So can you throw some light on that? How frequently did you take the mock test? How many mock tests in the offline mode, in the online mode? What kind of journey happened from mock test 1 to mock test, say 30, 35? Anant?
Sir, actually, the number of mock tests we have written is uncountable. It's too many mock tests, but they were all very helpful. Writing tests actually gives your brain the stamina to sit there for 3 hours and solve those papers. It also shows you variety of questions. As you solve many questions, many mock tests especially, at one mock test you would be like, oh, I have solved this already in some other paper, and then I would just do the Deeksha mock tests. There were a lot of mock tests here. They would also give us the other types of papers from other institutes, which was also useful. And I also used to do some mock tests at home, which were smaller. And I would just see which chapters I had to write mock tests in. I would write mock tests in that.
So probably while writing the mock test, you would have seen some questions repeating again and again. Maybe a previous year question, or maybe a question which has appeared in Deeksha test, or maybe a question which you have already solved in manual or somewhere else, right? So repetitive mock tests have helped you maybe to the extent of 25 to 30% questions repeating again and again. You see those questions, you know the answer. You don't have to think and solve those questions, and it happens quickly within a fraction of a second. You know the answer and you can solve, right? So, Kushal, how many mock tests did you do, and what kind of transition did you see from mock test 1 to mock test, say, N, as Anant was telling?
Yeah, I've also written around 30, 35 mock tests, and every day we used to write minimum 2 mock tests, and some days I've written 3 mock tests also, and it was very exhausting. But yeah, mock tests are really important because, yeah, as Anand also told, once you give yourself the exposure of lot of questions, you don't have to memorize them. You just know lot of things. So especially in chemistry, if you just solve lot of papers in inorganic, you don't have to remember the exceptions. You'll actually know that, oh, in the last test I made this mistake, so this is an exception. I should not make the same mistake in this paper.
So you are trying to say that in every paper we should do new mistakes. We should not
Not the same
we
mistake.
should not repeat the mistakes.
Yeah, I feel that as our teachers also used to say, we have to make as many mistakes as possible in the mock tests so that we don't make the same mistakes in the final exam.
Correct.
So in the starting, I was actually writing a full length paper for the first time. So it was a new experience. And starting, I was getting very low, like 170, 180, even in easy papers in the first few mock tests. So I was really sad, and I used to think, what is going wrong. Then I started revising all the formulas so that I don't forget them. Then gradually it increased, and the main problem for me was I used to do a lot of silly mistakes. Like I used to just do the calculation in my mind without writing on the paper. So when I was doing it in my mind, I used to skip some step, and somewhere I used to go wrong.
Okay.
So one of my teachers told me that I have to put the pen on paper and write it, so that I just see that what I've done wrong. So yeah, that's how I reduced my silly mistakes.
Probably not attempting one question versus getting -1, so you can compare the results here. So Siddharth, if I may ask you, over this period of time, you would have written, say, some 30-35 mock tests at least. And if there are 3 specific things that you learnt out of these mock tests, can you share with us?
One thing was I understood what mistakes I was making, because I didn't work out cleanly. I would write in random places, and while switching from one spot of the paper to the other spot, I'd miss some number.
Yeah,
And that was
I can just relate to what Narendra was telling earlier. 5 appeared as 8, and then the next steps went wrong.
So I realized what kinds of mistakes I was making. Like sometimes in an option they ask which of the statements are false. I wouldn't see false, I'd put the true statement. So that was one thing that really helped. And the other thing was, I think rather than doing lots of questions on the same subject, doing the mock test was easier because you have 25 from each subject, right? And so it was easier to solve lots of questions per day as mock tests rather than just grinding in like one subject. And then the other thing was I saw a lot of improvement while doing mock tests. Like initially I was scoring about 200, and then by the end I was scoring about 240, 250. And most of that came because I revised after the mock test. I went home, I saw what mistakes I made, and I made sure to correct them. Like that's the most important thing. If you're writing tests and just leaving them, then there's no use. Like you have to correct the mistakes you're making.
Okay. So taking a cue from what Siddharth was telling, he was writing mock tests and he was doing the corrective measures. So leaving giving the closure to these mock tests. Yashasvi, what kind of closures were you giving after writing every mock test? You observe that you have done some mistake. Maybe the mistake patterns are repetitive, or you were doing new kind of mistakes, or what kind of closures were you giving?
After every mock test, I used to analyze them, see the solutions, and then, yeah, sometimes I did repeat my mistakes, like reading the question wrong and then doing mind calculations. But coming to the end of the journey, I started doing new mistakes and I started learning from them. I believe we must make mistakes during mock test, but not repeat them. They must be new. That's when we learn from it and we don't do them in the real test. That's what even I did during the real test. I avoided doing mind calculations. I went a little slow whenever I got stuck, rather than just like being in a hurry, because time is important, but at the same time, I realized doing things faster made me commit more silly mistakes, which is even more painful. So that way I could improve because of the mock tests. The last month of my preparation was only writing mock tests and analyzing the mistakes, seeing the solutions. That's the only thing I did.
So basically, you slowed down when you found that there is a tendency of doing mistakes, or you found that you are going through a little rough phase. You slowed down and you calmed down yourself, and then you made sure that there was no mistake, right? and it's as good as having a proper time management, right? So Narendran, was there any improvement in the time management part when you wrote these mock tests? Time management specifically, were you a little slower at the beginning and faster at the end, or what kind of speed did you achieve over this period of time?
So at the start, beginning of these mock tests, I was not able to complete the whole paper, and so my marks also were not meeting the expectations. I would freak out sometimes looking at the marks, but then later on, I would then sit and calm down and then look what actually happened, and then that was when I decided physics and chemistry are my strong subjects. So let's give lesser time, but at the same time not make mistakes as well, and then prioritize maths as well, because maths is something which requires a lot of time. And one particular challenge which I took up during these mock tests was to reduce the number of negatives. It was in double digits at the start, and then I saw significant decrease. It came to around 5 at the end, and eventually in my mains I only made 3 negatives. So that from the negatives perspective, yes, I could see the improvement. Time management as well. So yes, this is how I.
So at the beginning of the test series mock test, how many questions were you attempting? Out of say 90 questions, you are supposed to answer 90 questions, or say 75 questions, 75 out of 90. So out of 75 questions, what was your speed at the beginning? How many questions were you able to attempt?
I was struggling to touch 50. It was around late 40s.
Okay.
So I was struggling to touch 50, but later on, as my confidence improved, and then I saw what mistakes I did, I improved. Then I could see it go beyond 50, 55, even 60 sometimes on easier exams. So
there's almost 30-35% improvement. That's really good. 30-35% improvement in 30 mock tests is really good. So you're touching
also, in addition to the mock tests I wrote in college, I also used to go back home and write one more paper in the evening after I reach home, so that I can get into that mode of JEEs in another 15 days. So let's start studying properly. So
So like one more thing that mock test helped with was, because we wrote so many mock tests on the actual day of JEE, I didn't feel like very pressurized. It was just like a regular test at that point. And it's also like I developed a very good strategy. So like usually one mistake many people make is, if they get a tough question, they focus on that thing and end up spending too much time. So I just, after like so many mock tests, like whenever I found a tough question, I just leave it for later and like realize that I shouldn't do this right now. And that's the experience you get only after you write lots of mock tests.
Okay. And it helps you understand what questions you are supposed to answer, what questions you can try, what questions you should never answer in the mock test. If you look at again this 20 months journey, you see that there is a specific point of inflection, right? In mathematics you see that, right? The tangent changes the direction. So similarly here, probably you've seen that there is a specific point at which you change your strategy. You started revising. You learned the subjects, you got control in that, but you at some point of time you said, hey, I want to revise that topic. I studied well, I got control in that chapter, but I now feel that I'm unable to recall, or say I'm unable to get control on say rotational dynamics. Somebody was telling about the fluid mechanics, somebody was telling about the inorganic chemistry, etc. So at some point of time you felt that this needs revision. So when did you feel the need for revision, and when did you start revising, and what kind of revisions did you do? Narendran?
So the need for my revision was mainly in inorganic chemistry, because that requires a lot of memory power as well, and we need to keep reading it again and again to for it to stay in our mind for longer periods of time, right? Because now mains is over, even advance is going to come soon, so we need to keep that knowledge within us. So I think in chemistry as a whole required a lot of revision.
When did you start this journey? When did you realize this revision requirement?
When the revision program started, it was in around, and in December, I started in December. So I used to study 3 hours per day I used to spend, and 1 hour for each subject. And per day I would try to finish 2 chapters at least. go through the notes which the teachers gave. That was most of the time that was more than enough. And in some cases, I would refer other books as well if my concept wasn't thoroughly clear. Otherwise, the notes and solving questions itself was sufficient.
Good. So Siddharth, what kind of revision did you do? When did you see the need for revision?
So basically what happened was when second PU started, that was when GC sir started teaching me. And then when he was teaching some topic, it related to something in first PU. And I wouldn't remember what I said in first PU. And so then I started feeling the need that I need to go back, look at this and memorize that stuff. And so, but I still didn't start revision at that point. It's just that it helped relate the concept. So, for example, in physics, like electrostatics and then gravitation is the same thing, almost. Okay. So, if you learn one, you basically cover the other. So, like such relations really help while revision. But I actually started revision at the end, when the revision program started, I think now after October, November. That's when I actually started the revision. Like, they take classes, and then after I went home, I just revised what was done and then prepared a little bit for the next day.
Okay. So, Anand, did you see this revision as an overall revision requirement or any specific chapter requirement? Because if you are looking at the overall revision, it's huge. In physics, you are learning, say, at least 20 chapters. In chemistry, another 20 chapters. Mathematics, another 20 to 23 chapters. So, 60 chapters. And you have very short duration of time. If you look at December, January, the things are going very fast. You have to write the tests also. So, what is the kind of preparation you did keeping the revision in mind?
Sir, well, whatever we learnt in first year, at least some part is still there in our mind. So, the revision actually becomes smaller in revision program. And also, what I tried to do was, I would always solve papers, like previous year papers. And in those previous year papers, I would not just do the ones like which are in second PU. I would also do first PU ones, but they were also very more difficult to do because I had forgotten the concept. So I would still ask my second PU teachers about these first PU questions when I solve these papers. So they are teaching second PU concepts, which is fresh when they teach, and I'm also asking doubts of first PU, which also helps cover that. So that is
bridge that gap.
Yes, so that is one type of revision I did. The other type was in the revision program. I would again do the PYQs because I had not done PYQs in first year. I had not solved HC Verma as much in first year. So clear those gaps as well. That was my revision.
So Yashasvi, so you were trying to balance the second year, keeping the examinations in mind. And were you also preparing from the first year? Were you doing some occasional revisions of the first year topics, or you kept all the revisions of the first year towards the end of the revision program? How did you balance the second year and part of the first year also?
So during the second year program, I just focused on the second year topics only. The first year revision I started from the revision program only because I knew I wasn't that strong in first year. That's why I wanted to make sure that my second year concept is very strong, so that I don't have to revise it during the end months. So that's why I didn't revise first year, and then I started it after the revision program started and gave most of my time to the first year concepts. Because the second year was very new and I practiced more, I was much serious. So that didn't require much time for me. So
Kushal, coming to you, did you feel that chemistry required any first year revision, or did you start revision only towards the second year end?
Yeah, I was not that well versed in physical chemistry, like chemical equilibrium, ionic equilibrium. So after the revision program started, I spent more time on that. I used to solve reference books. So that was the thing in physical chemistry. But in organic chemistry, since it started the later state, the GOC and hydrocarbons, I not solved much of the reference books. So in the revision program, I solved more questions, and in quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, I had to read a lot of NCRT also. Okay. So everything I did was in the revision program itself.
So during the revision program, how useful were the NCRT books? Because NCRT is something which is laying the foundation for board examination also. You are preparing simultaneously for board examination and competitive examinations. So that how useful are these NCRT books?
So, like Kushal said, chemical equilibrium, ionic equilibrium, they're kind of confusing. Like, especially since I'd forgotten most of it. It was taught in first year. So, it was after reading NCRT a few times, all of that got cleared. Like after that, I could solve chemical equilibrium questions without too much effort. And basically, NCRT is a must for chemistry. Like you can't go without NCRT for chemistry. And what I've found is for organic, the organic is basically everything is related. So even if you're solving a second PU topic, some reactions from first PU from the hydrocarbons would come. So you automatically have some revision happening all the time. So organic was mostly fine. NCRT was required mostly for physical and inorganic.
So now in these 2 years, what kind of support did you get from your Deeksha teachers? Maybe your physics teachers, chemistry teachers, mathematics teachers, or your Deeksha parents. What kind of support did you get? Proper support from your teachers in academic activities and co-academic activities like building your confidence and giving you the right direction, etc. So what do you say, Anant?
Sir, I mean, all the teachers are the ones who have taught us how to answer JEE in the first place. So that inherently is one support. Sir, so even in first PU, especially Virupakshi sir, he taught inorganic chemistry of first year very well. But whenever I felt difficulty in the Deeksha manual, I would immediately go and ask him how to solve these questions. Even if he didn't get, he would refer to other teachers and he would tell me the correct answer. He has helped me, especially for atomic structure. The questions in stage 2 are quite difficult. And then even physics, GC sir helped brush up the first year portions, which was very good because first year I wasn't paying that much attention. And the maths was pretty good, especially Shyam sir taught integration properly. And AK sir taught me probability, but it's still quite difficult. The D-parent system is also quite useful, especially because if I have any concerns, academic or co-academic or whatever it be the day before JEE, after JEE, immediately after JEE, my D-parent RP sir helped me a lot. He would support me. He would tell me, it is fine, you have done good at mains. That was the support I received.
Wonderful.
So like all the faculty are very experienced. So, and the teaching methodology was really nice. Basically for organic and then like for RP sir and GC sir in physics, what they would do is they basically just give questions, they just let us solve it. And so we would actually develop some idea of how to solve it instead of just directly giving the answers. And they would also adopt, like if we found a method faster and easier to solve, they adopted while teaching other classes and stuff. So I think that was really good in Deeksha. And the other thing was, for me, RP sir was the DP. And any problem I had, I could contact him and he would support me for everything. And that was a really big part of the experience in Deeksha.
So one thing with GC sir is that he's been teaching me for the last 2 years. Like in first P, he was my physics teacher. So whenever we are solving questions, especially numericals, he used to start shouting, solve fast. That sort of actually helped in time management, I would say, because physics is a subject which has become sort of easy lately, and we shouldn't be spending too much of time on it because there's maths which requires that time. And I feel GC sir played a good role in making us go faster. So that is one thing which I can say. And RP sir, he was my Deeksha parent, so he would, yeah, as we all told, he used to give organic questions as games. These small things just to motivate us and actually made us get back the interest in the subject. This is what I felt. And most of the teachers are quite experienced, so they know what we are thinking, they know what our mindset is, so they try to think from our perspective and then give solutions to our problems, if any. That is one thing which I...
So like one thing I found is like all the teachers are super friendly. Like one incident I remember very clearly is the teachers joined Narendran in making bhel puri in the class. And that was like a very memorable experience. Like it doesn't usually happen, and
It's unforgettable. You can't forget that very easily.
that's what basically GC sir, RP sir, Sham sir, AK sir, all of them were very friendly. They're
Shamsar's dance.
oh, yeah. And sometimes when like for example, if a test was bad, like most people in class got bad scores, the teachers come, they'll motivate us, they'll give big speeches, and that was like very inspiring for us for the journey.
Ninth and 10th, much being online, I'm mostly a reserved person, so I'm not that open for doubts as well. But coming to Deeksha, I could ask teachers much openly. They were quite friendly, especially with AKS sir. Whenever I go with a doubt to him, he'll ask me another question along with solving that doubt, and he's
So
like,
he's guiding you in that
yes,
direction.
sir. And then if I don't get that doubt there, and like if I get a doubt in that, he'll again ask me to solve, sit, and then come the next day if I still can't get it. That way I used to get good number of questions also in return and good concepts. It was nice with all the teachers here.
Kushal, you remember, I'm sure you may remember many incidences in these 2 years, right? Any incidents that you'd like to share?
During DFest, there was a lot of queue for the food, so we had to wait a lot. That time, GC sir took a lot of students, and he took us to the restaurant, and he brought us food. So yeah, that was a memorable experience. And all the teachers, if whenever we message them any doubts, they reply us and they answer to those questions, even if they are silly also. So yeah, that is very good thing that I found in the Deeksha teachers.
So as you know, in JEE Main Session 1, Deeksha Main Campus children have done really well. So I'm sitting with 5 of these children who have scored more than 99 percentile. And right now I see 72 candidates clearing the JEE Main examination in the Session 1. But if you look at the journey that many of the JEE Main candidates want to take up further, 2 points which are very important are practicing a lot. So I'm sure that all of you are going to write the JEE Main examination one more time to improvise your score. That will give you better confidence and that will prepare you for JEE Advanced examination in a better way. So point number 1 is repeat the JEE Main examination. There is no harm in writing the examination one more time. It's one other examination. And it will certainly improve your JEE Main score. From our past experience, we have seen that it works. Second thing is, write all the examinations that you have planned. Maybe PSAT, maybe VIT, maybe BITSAT, maybe IST examination, maybe say ISR examination, all the examinations. Because more the examinations, better is the confidence. You will get exposed to all the examinations. Finally, for the JEE Advanced examination, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. So in the 90 days time, you should plan 3 things. Number 1, make sure that your subject knowledge is really good, because JEE Advanced examination is something that happens only with real good candidates. JEE Advanced examination is not examination of selection, it's examination of rejection. Almost 240,000 children write the JEE Advanced examination, and maybe approximately 13 to 15,000 children will be selected. So I can say that 235,000 children get rejected. So that's the kind of examination, and only those who have good subject content will be selected. And make sure that you pick up from the pain points, from the gray areas, make sure that you cover, because you have the advantage of PU examinations. Your PU examinations are getting over early, and you are almost 1.5 months before you write your actual examination, JEE Advanced examination, and practice lots of tests. The way you prepare for your JEE Main examination should be the way forward as well. So all the best, my dear children, and all the best for everybody for the remaining examinations as well. Thank you very much.